Hey guys, Noahsferatu here, and welcome to this Valve Software Games tier list. Um, it's been a while, and I wanted to try some new content, a different type of content, and I realized that tier lists are all the rage these days. So, we are going to do a tier list about something that I have my opinions about, and I thought I'd make a video of it. And it'll probably be a somewhat shorter video as well. Um, let's get started with the ones that I haven't played. Is this? I don't know what this is, so I'll put it under haven't played yet. As far as like all the Counter-Strike games go, I'm not like super interested in them. Though I know, a lot of people really like them. Same goes for Dota 2 and a lot of these other ones. Honestly, I'm probably going to mainly be talking about the mainline games, uh, which are mostly the Portal and Half-Life series. But we'll get to them. I don't know what that is either, so I'll probably just put that here. I don't know. Um, Ricochet. I like. I don't know. I played it once, I guess, but it was like offline, so it wasn't really fun at all. And I probably won't play it because I don't think people play that game anymore, as far as I know. Deathmatch Classic. I might have played that, but I probably won't be talking about it. I don't know what that is. Um, duh, duh, duh. And Team Fortress, the original Team Fortress, I'm not very familiar with, but I will be talking about Team Fortress 2 in this tier list because I'm somewhat more familiar with that one. Is there anything else that I would want to get rid of? No, I think we're ready to actually start this. Okay, let's start with um, we'll kind of go by order of release, but I don't remember what the actual chronological order of release was. So I'm just gonna go by my best guesses. Um, Half-Life 1, probably S tier. Yeah, one of the most influential FPS games of all time, and still very fun to play to this day. Everything from the alien designs, the iconic sounds, like the scientists going like, "Rrr." I can't really make their sounds right now because I gotta be kind of quiet. It's kind of late at night. But I probably wouldn't do a great job of it anyway. Anyway, you get the point. Um, One of my personal favorite games in the series too. I think it has the best variety of weapons. Um, and um, the FPS gameplay is probably some of the best in the series as well, even compared to some later games like Half-Life 2, because I think the AI in Half-Life 1, especially when it comes to the, when you fight the military, is much better. Um, but it was also like probably one of the first games that kind of, it wasn't like Doom where you just had to run in and like destroy, tens of hundreds of demons or whatever without a care in the world. You had to be much more methodical and kind of take note of your environment and solve little puzzles here and there. And it was great. I don't think, I still feel like a lot of games these days manage to, well, a lot of games these days struggle to uh, accomplish what Half-Life 1 accomplished, and the later Half-Life games as well, but we'll get to them. But yeah, Half-Life 1, I think it deserves S tier. So let's get on to the DLCs for Half-Life 1. Also, Half-Life 1 Source, I've heard, I probably won't play that. I've heard kind of bad things about it, but, maybe someday. I don't know. Anyway, the DLCs, we've got Half-Life Blue Shift. I will put that in B. It's a solid, Half-Life 1 DLC. Kind of short. No, it doesn't do anything too crazy. It's been a while from what I remember it, but it doesn't really stand out to me as much as, say, Half-Life 2 Opposing Force. Um, yeah, but it's still like a solid experience from what I remember. So I think it should go comfortably. Oh, I can't talk. In the B tier. It should go in the B tier. Half-Life Opposing Force, I'll put in A. It's probably the best official Half-Life mod. I guess I guess they're mods made by Valve. I don't know if they'd be considered DLC or not. Um because like with DLC, I think that's usually part of the game itself. These are two separate games. Um that are just kind of like, I think they were modifications of Half-Life, but you know, I think I'll just call them mods. Anyway, I would put it in A because it has a lot more going for it than Blue Shift, because you get to play as the bad guys, or the supposed bad guys, which are the military. And it has a really fun tutorial where you're going through boot camp, and it's very entertaining and funny. And it introduces some new gameplay mechanics like climbing ropes, and I think you could bring squad mates with you as well. Um, and it introduces some new enemies and probably some new weapons as well. The Blue Shift probably had that as well. It's been so long since I've played either of these, but I think the one thing that really keeps Opposing Force out of S for me is the difficulty and how unfair it can be at times. Because I believe there are instances where you're going through a hallway and you have a Vortigaunt spawning in front of you and behind you, and you really don't have, you have to like memorize that, because if you are going purely based on reaction, you're probably not going to survive. And I just remember it being like incredibly difficult in the later half of the game. But I might replay it some time, and maybe I'll have a difference of opinion. Anyway, next we have Half-Life 2. S tier. Also, I'm going to put this in there because I don't really. I guess that's like deathmatch, but source. So same category for me. Half-Life 2. Um, again, very incredibly influential game and a lot of fun. Um, I think like overall, I prefer Half-Life 2 over 1. Um, even though I do think it has some of the weaker, I think it has some weaker FPS gameplay and um, definitely weaker AI. But that's not what really makes Half-Life 2 stand out to me. Um, I remember when I first played Half-Life 2, I was pretty young. Um, I think I was at my aunt's house or something, and I played it on PC for the first time, and I was like completely blown away by how good it looked. Like I had never seen anything that looked as good as that game, and I swear for the longest time, like that was one of the best looking games like ever. And these days you can start to see its age. Like we've definitely come a long way as far as graphics goes and realism in games, but it still looks pretty solid despite how old it is. Um, and what really like makes this game in particular stand out to me is not only the graphics but the how cinematic it is. It's like I still like feel goosebumps playing through the game and just kind of like being a part of the world. It feels much more immersive with helicopters flying around, combine patrols, striders marching around, and the intro to Half-Life 2, like the whole like first couple of chapters really like immerses you in that world before like getting you into more of the gameplay. Um, but and I just really like all the scenery as well. Like City 17 is pretty cool. Um, I actually like the vehicle sections. I know a lot of people think that they're too long. I don't mind them really. Like I think they really make you feel like you've traveled a long way. Um, when you do them, and the fact that like the game has no loading screens, you know, it just makes it feel like much more of like a grand adventure to me. Um, because like it has you start out in City 17 and then you're like slowly making your way through the canals, and then you get to the airboat, and then you travel miles away from the city and you know to Eli's lab, and then you go to Ravenholm. And Ravenholm is awesome, by the way, probably the coolest area in the game. And I do quite like the coast levels were are maybe like I can see them being kind of boring for some people because it's mostly just sand and water. But I do kind of like the aesthetic of that. I don't know. I like the lighthouse section in particular just because I really like lighthouses, but that's a personal thing. Anyway, I just like the aesthetic of the game, and I guess that's my subjective opinion in a way. But that's not to say, the game itself isn't like objectively influential because of how cinematic it was in terms of like the character animations, the story, the physics puzzles. Probably the first physics puzzles ever seen in a game. And, they did physics puzzles in a pretty fun way as well. Um, obviously replaying through it, some of the puzzles aren't going to be as fun because you know what to do and all of that. So the first time will probably be the most fun for you. But, I still think it is a very like amazing experience the first time you play it, especially if you played it when it came out. Um, yeah. But like I said, I don't think it's as replayable as Half-Life 1 because I don't think the FPS combat is as good. Despite how fun the gravity gun can be, I just don't think the AI of the Combine is all that great compared to the military in Half-Life 1. Anyway, Half-Life 2, awesome. Amazing game. Really is. I don't have much more to say about it at the moment, but I think it deserves a spot in the S tier. Half-Life 2 Episode 1, I will put in A tier. Um, so it's probably like my least favorite of the Half-Life 2 episodes. Um, and part of the reason is probably because it's really short and it feels kind of like you're just playing a little bit of extra Half-Life 2 because you spend the whole game in City 17 pretty much, as well as the Citadel for a while. But been there, done that. It's just it has more of an apocalyptic feel to it, I guess, with the completely destroyed city, Citadel falling apart. Um, still very cool, but um, and I do think it has some of the best lines in all the Half-Life games, like when Alex makes the Zombine joke and it introduces the Zombine, um, which is very great, and the Combine Zombie, yeah. I guess that's what it's officially called, but I like to call it a Zombine because that's what Alex called it. Anyway, um, but otherwise, I don't have much to say about it. Like, it's very solid. It's like more of Half-Life 2, but it doesn't. Aside from like getting to spend more time with Alex and kind of fleshing out her character a bit more, um, I don't have much more to say about it. But it's a good game. Definitely a tier game. Um, Also, is this like Half-Life 2 deathmatch? Put that there. Um, Half-Life 2 Episode 2, I'm actually going to put in S tier because I feel like unlike Half-Life 2 Episode 1, it has enough things about it that make it stand out from the original Half-Life 2. Um, I think it's visually, possibly, the most impressive of the Half-Life 2 and its episodes. Um, the forest that you are going through is very beautiful, and the destroyed citadel in the distance with a giant portal in the sky. Super amazing. Um, that portal storm that happens right at the beginning. um, as well as like audio, like the Vortigaunt call, um, when the Vortigaunt, uh, who helps you rescue Alec, calls to his buddies, and it creates this like echoey sound. Like that was super fun and amazing to just experience for the first time. And I find this game to be much more memorable than Half-Life 2 Episode 1. Everything from like the new enemies like the hunter, um the part where that guardian's chasing you through the larva caves terrified me as a kid because I hadn't really played any horror games before then, and you're getting chased by this thing that you're not really supposed to kill, and it's like always there whenever you leave your hidey hole. Um, yeah, that I couldn't really. Took me a long time to get past that as a kid because I was scared. But um, it's just a very beautiful game to look at and experience, and I think it also has. To me, it's when like the story really like gets better because Eli kind of acknowledges the existence of the G-Man, and you kind of start to wonder about him more, um, as well as who he is and what's really going on. Um, and yeah, also the Portal tie-in is pretty cool. But we'll get to that. We'll get to Portal soon. But yeah, um, not to mention the very sad ending. Child me had a hard time processing the ending of this game with Eli just dying and game over, and I'm like, oh no, when's the next one coming out? And we still to this day do not have a Half-Life 3. So, uh, it felt like a very cruel decision on the devs' part to leave it there if they weren't going to really continue it. But that's where Half-Life Alyx comes along, and we'll get to that. But yeah, um, a very touching game, unforgettable game in my opinion, to the point where I think it deserves S tier. Um, let's go with Portal. Portal's A tier. Um, very fun puzzle game, super unique concept. Um, I don't really. I know that Portal didn't invent that concept. There was like a game previously that kind of had the concept of having two portals that you would put things through, but I don't remember what it was called. Um, but still, I think Portal did perfect it, and it's a pretty short game. Like, especially if you're replaying it and know how to solve all the puzzles, like you can beat it in one sitting pretty easily. But the first time it's a great experience because it starts out as like a simple puzzle game, but then like the music gets creepy at certain points, and you find some hidey holes where the scientists were hiding from GLaDOS, and you're like, what's going on here? Something's off about this place. And then when it gets close to the end of the game, you realize that GLaDOS is actually evil and wants to kill you. And then it becomes like this whole new experience where you have to like kind of um prove everything that you've learned and eventually defeat GLaDOS at the end. So, and you get a really awesome song at the end, one of the best end credits songs of all time. So Portal, amazing game. I love it. Portal 2 is ass because, they took everything that Portal had and they perfected it, made it into a much bigger game with, online levels. Like people could make their own levels and they added co-op to the game, and it had everything great about Portal 1 and the things it added were amazing too, like, the gels and the I think the gels were the most fun addition, but um they also added the laser, which was pretty nice as well. They just added a lot of things, and they, went deeper on the story. Um, Obviously, from Portal 1, like, you get to learn more about GLaDOS and her history, her origins, as well as some of the people who worked at Aperture Science. And, you get to meet Wheatley, who's definitely a memorable character as well. Anyway, yeah, Portal 2 is just Portal, but improved in every way. So, S tier. Um, the lab, I don't. I think that's like a Portal spin-off thing, so I'm not sure. And I think this is too, so I'll put that there. Also, Half-Life Lost Coast. Um, it's like a fun demonstration game. It's not like a demo. I guess it's like the game is like cut content from what would have been in the coast levels for Half-Life 2. It's fun to play, but not necessary by any means. Um, I would recommend it if you're like a super big Half-Life fan, but otherwise you know, it's just solid, but it's not groundbreaking or anything. Okay, we're getting to the last few here. Aperture Desk Job I haven't played, but I've seen other people play. I mean, it's just like a funny little spin-off game, but nothing groundbreaking either. Um, you know, um, that reminds me, I was also gonna say like Portal 2 was probably the best looking Valve game at the time, and like the facility felt very huge as you're going through it, and I really love that about the game. I just wanted to add that as well. Um, then we have Half-Life Alex. I'm not sure where I want to put this one. I think it's as good as those. I'll put it in S. Um, it's a VR game, so not everyone. It's not as accessible to play as some of the other games, which I think a lot of people might have a problem with, and I kind of had a problem with it as well. Though playing it in VR is certainly a very fun experience as well. I'm not sure if I would want every Half-Life game going forward to be VR, because I feel like they should be more accessible to a wide audience. But, if they did release new VR Half-Life games, I would definitely play them because it is an awesome experience if you happen to have a VR headset. Um, you know, Being a newer game relatively, it looks amazing, especially in VR. It's like you're actually there, and they have a lot of the same features that you would come to expect in a Half-Life game, like some like physics and physics puzzles, and as well as some more, strategic tactical gameplay that's not totally guns a blazing, with some, you have to pay attention to your environment as well. And they did a good job of not making it too scary either, because they kind of um I think if it was exactly like the earlier Half-Life games, like it would be super scary, because like head crabs jumping in your face. But they did a good job in Alex. Like the head crabs telegraph their attacks, and the antlions aren't super scary either. So I think they did a good job making it, um, accessible for non-horror fans, except for the bit with Jeff where he's like chasing you around and you have to use sound to divert his attention, and that's like really scary. And it's probably my favorite part of the whole game. Like, that part could have gone on for longer because it was so much fun to sneak around Jeff and get chased by him. And they also added a little more. They kind of continued the story of Half-Life 2 in a fun way, in an interesting way. Um, but I'm not going to spoil that since it's kind of a newer game. You can just play it yourself or watch somebody else play it. But it gives you a little more hope compared to the ending of Half-Life 2 Episode 2, at least in my opinion. Okay, we're down to the final three. We have Left 4 Dead Game of the Year edition. I played this with a friend once, and it was a lot of fun. I think the zombies are, kind of fun, and the way they kind of behave feels very zombie-like and appropriate. I don't know. I'm not as well versed with these games, so I can't say too much about them. But I know a lot of people love Left 4 Dead, and from what I have played of Left 4 Dead, the original, it's a lot of fun, especially with friends. Left 4 Dead 2, I know people like that more than Left 4 Dead 1, but I haven't played it yet. So, if anybody wants to play Left 4 Dead 2 with me, just let me know. Like just put a comment in the YouTube comment section, or just send me a message. I really don't care. Team Fortress 2. I think I'm gonna probably have to put that in S tier. I think it's a very iconic team PvP game. Probably one of the most iconic team PvP games of all time, especially like when it comes to meme culture and all that. Like, you see the characters in memes and in YouTube animations, and a lot of people have done like great stuff with that. And it has a very passionate community. And from what I have played of the game, it is a fun PvP game. Like, it's just a shame that these days you can't really play it because the servers tend to be plagued with bots and whatnot. At least the last I was aware of it. But yeah, I think it's, probably objectively an S tier game, even though I haven't played it as much as the others. But yeah, that concludes my Valve Software tier list. As you can see, I'm a pretty big Valve fan. Like, I never put anything that I have played under B tier because just these mainline games here are all very solid. And although like I wouldn't say the S tier games are perfect, no game is like completely perfect, and I just put them there because I felt like they have enough emotional and mental impact, and they're all very influential. Um, so I think they deserve their spot there. Yeah. I hope you guys liked this video. I wanted to try something new. Sorry if I stumble on my words sometimes. But yeah. Have a good day, guys.